I do want to ask you, Mr. Brisco, you said something a minute ago that I really appreciated, especially how you sort of soft shoot it. That sometimes in wrestling, you have to put your pride aside and do what's right for business. And we get what you mean there. But when I take a look at cagematch.net and I look through all the different Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair matches, Hulk Hogan won all of them by count out or DQ. There were no clean finishes. Now, once they started doing tag stuff, mixing in Sid Justice and Roddy Piper, certainly there were pinfalls at that point. But prior to making it a tag affair, it feels like Vince was very intentional in not letting anyone, get a clean pinfall victory over the other. The first time we see a one-on-one clean pinfall victory, it sets a pay-per-view record for WCW. I'm saying all that to say, even if Vince decided it wasn't necessarily a WrestleMania main event, I have a hard time wrapping my head around why it wasn't at least a SummerSlam opportunity or some other subsequent pay-per-view. It does feel like there would have been a lot of intrigue in Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan, but famously SummerSlam 92, Hulk Hogan's not on the card and neither is Ric Flair. Flair makes an appearance and interferes, but he's just not figured in. Do you think from day one, Vince had aspirations of getting there and then ultimately just realized maybe Ric Flair wasn't the best fit for the WWF at the time, or was it something else, Mr. Brisco?
Well, I think you hit an important sentence there, and I'm gonna say this: I really don't think in the beginning that Vince had the confidence in Ric Flair as a world champion, more so as one of the old WWF or WWF characters that Ric Flair was, which was Hogan, by the way, too. So I'm not just jumping on Rick, or Hogan was too, but at least Vince had the confidence in the daily contact with Hogan. But I don't think Vince really had the confidence that Rick could be our torchbearer in the WWF. And I think I don't think it boils down to anything else but Vince having confidence in Rick. Because you'd have a conversation with him, and I was old school, so I was kind of pro Flair, even though Hogan and I go way back too. I was kind of pro Flair on this whole program. When I was at a farm, mind you, doing the local promotion, I knew as a promoter what I wanted to see and what my fans wanted to see, what my fans, my ticket buyers wanted to see, and I just didn't. I relate to, well, they want to see Hogan. Well, no, it's not going to happen right now. So I think Rick had to kind of come in and prove himself to Vince, which he did more than capable of proving himself to Vince that he was that carrier of the gold there. But I think it was more than anything else that just confidence in Vince in the beginning that Rick was not a WWE. And let's face it, back in those days, there were certain modes that you had a certain mode for WWF. You had a certain mode for WWF or for NWA talent. And those modes, they were hard to break those modes, especially the guys that were really over. And Flair, of course, and Hogan was over. So I think it was just that lack of confidence in the leader.
Hey, Conrad, by the way, do you think there's any chance in the world you're going to bring the NWA champion and beat Hulk Hogan?
No.
I don't give a damn who it is. I don't give a damn if it's freaking Luthez crossed with Jim Londos and Bruno Sammartino. You ain't bringing in the cross with Jack Briscoe and Flair. You ain't bringing in the NWA champion and beating the WWF champion. There's less than zero chance that's going to happen.
And vice versa, too. I mean,
well, and my thing is, I kind of always assumed we would see the WWF title versus the NWA title. I could imagine in my mind's eye, that's the ultimate WrestleMania. Ric Flair wearing some version of the big gold belt, even if that's the one that Reggie Parks made to look like the original one, and Hulk Hogan wearing the classic WWF title. Champion versus champion. Hogan wins them both. He holds up both belts over his head like Warrior did a few years prior with the Intercontinental. That makes all the sense in the world. I think everyone expected Hulk Hogan to beat Ric Flair. But the idea that he was careful not to have that happen even on the house shows. Hogan was not beating Flair on the house. I mean, he was winning the matches, but by count out or DQ, it just feels like, John, if we're protecting nobody losing by a clean finish, it seems like we're doing that because we have future plans in mind. We just never saw them.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there was an audible called, because obviously, like I say, Vince Conrad, we've gone over this a few times. You know, when you have, like, say, the WCW invasion, the ECW invasion, we don't do invasions very well at WWE. We have the NWA invasion in the late 90s. We don't do them very well. But there's no way with Vince's, what he's gone through in the territories, that he's going to allow some territory to come in and their champion beat his. Now, once that champion becomes his, once Flair becomes WWE, then it's okay for Flair to be the WWE champion. But as you would come in as NWA, I think they had to call an audible. I think they were taking care of this. I mean, this looks like otherwise you just have somebody getting beat every night unless you have something planned. I think something was planned and an audible was called.
Well, of course, we know that one of those audibles is making Flair the champion at Royal Rumble 92. But there's another story about a champion at Royal Rumble I want to ask Mr. Brisco about. But before we do, there's a famous story out there, Mr. Brisco, that once upon a time, while Bret Hart was the Intercontinental Champion, that his contract was coming due and he had an opportunity to go to WCW. And famously, we switched the title and it becomes an opportunity for the Mountie to win it at a house show. Roddy Piper would later win that belt. And we get a rematch with Roddy Piper and Bret Hart on pay-per-view, something that people still talk about a lot at that same WrestleMania 8. You were there. Set the record straight. Did you ever think at any point in the early 90s when he was Intercontinental Champion that Bret may actually jump to WCW?
No, I didn't ever in the wildest dream think that would happen at any point. I mean, Bret's one of those type of guys where you get his confidence and he's loyal. He's loyal to a fault towards you. And Bret, when you know, during that time frame, you know, a lot of things were happening. We were losing a lot of guys, and of course everybody knows. But so, but no, and answer your question, I never had a thought that Bret. I didn't even know the thought wave was in his mind to present an opportunity for a phone call or a weakness there. But you know, being around Vince, and traveling with him with the group and everything, you start to hearing a little rumble. Bret's wanting this, and then you start, well, maybe something is going on. But you know, as a friend and as an acquaintance, I could not see that happening. I even had my doubt and like a lot of other people at the time, I was kind of thinking might be a contract negotiation ploy too with Bret, but as it turned out, it wasn't.
Well, maybe you're ready to get off the hamster wheel. You know, the Federal Reserve data is showing that the share of accounts making only minimum payments has now climbed above 11% as of the first quarter of this year.
Damn.
That's the highest level since they started recording and tracking this data back in 2012. But at the same time, a recent survey from Experian found that 2 in 5 Americans are carrying credit card debt and believe that making the minimum payment is enough to manage it. But like millions of Americans, are you too struggling with high interest rate credit card debt? You feel stuck just making those minimum monthly payments? Well, you've heard me say it time and time again, your home is still worth more than likely what you paid for it. So instead of carrying all that high interest rate debt month to month, why not use the equity in your home instead? Just take a look at Andy, my buddy up in Appleton, Wisconsin. He had some medical issues that forced him and his family to take on a lot of credit card debt. But we hooked him up at SaveWithConrad.com. We helped him take advantage of the equity he had in his home. He paid off that debt, and he's going to save more than $1,000 a month. But how much can you save? Let my team run the numbers for you today for free, just like we did for Andy. There's no cost and no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. It costs nothing to look, as our pal JR says. And when you work with the team at SaveWithConrad.com, you can also expect our year 3 guarantee. Experts agree that interest rates are set to fall within the next few years, but we have an exclusive 3-year guarantee that allows you to refinance in the next 3 years at any time with no lender fees. So you lock in a better rate, reduce your monthly payments today, but you don't waste money with a whole nother set of closing costs later. The best time to start saving money is today. Well, actually, it was yesterday, but today is the next best opportunity. So why not access some of that newfound equity in your house? Turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. If you've got some honey-do renovations you'd like to do, maybe you've always wanted to upgrade your kitchens or bathrooms, you've got the equity in your house to do that too. No matter what you're looking for, we can help at SaveWithConrad.com. Find out how easy it is to get started. And just so you know, you don't need perfect credit. So even if you've had some problems, we don't say no, we say not yet, but here's how. We want to get you on a path to making those financial goals a reality at savewithconrad.com. Why not let my family help your family save some cash at savewithconrad.com? NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender, savewithconrad.com.